Hi guys, Garage RC here, back with another video. Today's video is about drifting and the Mini Z ma030 Evo. Before we crack on with the video, please, if you like what I'm doing, give me a like on the video and also subscribe to the channel. Your subs greatly improve the content I can provide. I'm so pleased, and guys, thank you so much for the support I've had. The views have been tremendous. We're flying along, and I just need to keep telling you, subscribe to the channel. Every sub counts. If you're viewing my channel regularly and you're not subscribed, please sub. It helps the channel and the YouTube algorithm, which helps people see my videos and then enables me to provide more content that you guys can watch and enables me to review more cars so we can learn more about them. Okay guys, with that done, let's move along to the video. So today's video is about drifting, and I have reverted my Mini Z ma030 from race to drift by putting some drift tires back on the car. There we go. So this is the car you've seen in previous videos, this red one, which is the one that does all the flips in the previous videos when it wasn't wide enough and wasn't low enough. So this has now got drift tires installed and it's ready to be drifted. So I thought I'd do a comparison with a real drift, full drift setup. What I mean by that, so this car, apart from the drift tires, everything else on this car is really set for stock. Really, it's not been adjusted apart from the ICS settings, which I will pop up on the screen, and the LiPo batteries, that are the lithium ion batteries that I use, the 350 SoShine, which make the car lighter. It's stock otherwise apart from that. So this ma030 Evo is not stock. This one's been set up purely for drift. What do I mean by that? Well, number one, I have put a front one-way diff in the car. Number two, the rear axle is fixed. It's a solid axle, so there is no rear diff. And also I have changed the angles of the rear wheels. These are 2-degree atomic knuckles, as you can see there. Which gives the car more of a rear camber in 2 degrees, and that changes the characteristics of the handling. The rear pod is now all alloy and the lower part is carbon fiber, and we've got, so these are all atomic parts at the rear, and this front part is an Eagle Racing, which I know isn't the best, but in this instance I just wanted to see what difference it would make having some Eagle Racing parts on the car. Sorry. So first thing I want to do is a weigh-in. So they've both got the same types of batteries in. We've got SoShine lithium ion in both, so that's two 3.7 volt cells, 7.4 volts, and then 2 dummy connectors which don't weigh much. So let's do the weigh-in. Okay, so first we'll put the stock Evo with batteries in, and we've got 143 grams. Okay. So I've made a big deal about this in the past, that I like to use the lighter batteries just to get the best out of the cars. And here we're 151 grams, so we're a good 8 or 9 grams heavier. And I think that is obviously in part due to all the alloy parts we've added on. So for me, that's always a negative. I like to keep the weight of the Mini Z down. And that's because it's at a weight disadvantage with its batteries from the start. So if you're running normal, or even if you're running these Orion 750s, they weigh more than the SoShine, and that adds weight to your car. And if you're going to run up against a BZ3 or a GLA, you need the weight advantage. Power to weight is how you're going to compete with those cars. So with the 10 gram weight difference, we're using the same body shells, so just for argument's sake I will weigh them. 33 grams and 34 grams, but they're pretty much the identical shell. Okay. So the idea here is I really wanted to test out how the characteristics are different for each car with drifting. And I've set the ICS settings the same for both. I've reduced the motor revolution. I've reduced the initial punch down to 1. I've basically made the cars as soft as possible so that they are easier to drift. We don't want lots of power hitting hard right from the start. We want a slow, smooth delivery so that our cars can drift nicely. So bearing in mind, the white Evo, Audi Evo, is the front one-way diff, locked rear axle even. The red Audi R8 is the basic setup, standard setup. Okay, here we go, guys. After those tests, I really was in two minds initially about what I thought about the front one way and the solid rear axle. The initial slip test on the slippery surface, yes, it was easy to drift even without the gyro, but I wasn't convinced because with the standard spec I was able to get around just as easily. Maybe that's my style of driving, but I have to admit the solid rear axle did make it easy to hold the line. But when I took it to the track, that's when this thing really came alive. So these are drift tyres on both cars on an RCP track. And wow, it just powers along really, really, really fast. It lays down the power. Remember, both these cars have got the same top end. But what you saw in the tests earlier was that the one-way diff and the rear axle really give the white Audi that extra punch. And you can lock in tight on the corners. You can use it like a handbrake, and when you hit brake, that front one-way helps the rear end just slip around really tight. And you can see here I'm opening up the lead just by getting tight on those corners, but also powering out the straight really fast. And the yellow Audi just couldn't keep up. And even when it was ahead, I'd overtake it. And when I did race this, I was lapping everybody. I could not believe how much power I was getting down. The throttle itself, you can be a lot more aggressive with it, which makes it a lot more fun to drive. And the noise it makes a real sort of aggressive, snarling noise. And when you let go of the throttle, you can hear the one-way spinning, which is also pretty cool. So I was taken by this car, 98mm, and it handled like a 90mm. I've only ever used a front one-way in a 90mm Mini Z, and I love that car on this track. But I had tried a one-way in my SZ before and I didn't take to it. This is the first time I've done a locked rear axle and a front one-way. And from this footage here you can see it just flies around the track. The standard Evo is pretty good. I mean, the lap times are pretty close, and the fastest lap time, there was only about 0.2 seconds in it. But over consistent laps, this consistently brings the goods, and you win by laps. So the time that's come up is a good reflection of both cars. The Mini Z standard Evo is fast. Now for me, I think if I'm going to be racing on a slippery surface, what I've always preferred is a front one-way, limited rear slip, so you've got a slightly tighter diff. And that's what I've got coming up now in the next footage, is my personal setup from drifting on a slippery surface. And this is an AMZ 90mm, and it's got a front one-way and it's got a rear limited slip, so I've tightened the diff. It still is a normal differential, it's open enough, but it just gives that bit more control, and that's the preferred balance I like, somewhere in between. Saying that though guys, when I'm racing on an RCP track, that is a setup I'm going to be using when I'm racing our drift races. So this is obviously not from when we're racing with rubber tyres, this is with drift tyres. And I definitely rate the upgrades that I've done to my Evo, and I'm very excited to use it again. So guys, I'll see you all next time. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and take care.